My name is Braden, 68 years old, and a retired construction engineer. I spent 4 decades saving for a comfortable retirement, always believing family comes first. When my only son, Gregory, asked to borrow $200,000 for his first home, I never hesitated. How could I know that behind his grateful smile lay a calculated betrayal? The truth emerged when I discovered his wife and mother-in-law had moved into the house purchased with my retirement fund. So, I picked up my phone and made a call. My son turned pale when I put it on speaker. If you are watching this, I would love to know where you are from. Drop a like and subscribe as I share how I discovered what my own flesh and blood was hiding from me. The life I built came from 40 years of hard work as a construction engineer. Every day I would wake before sunrise, put on my worn boots, and head to building sites across Chicago. My wife Margaret and I purchased a modest 3-bedroom home in the suburbs back in 1982. We never needed anything extravagant. The mortgage payments were manageable, and we saved consistently. Margaret always said, "Rainy day funds become retirement sunshine." Her wisdom guided our financial decisions throughout our marriage. Cancer took Margaret 10 years ago. The disease progressed rapidly, giving us only 6 months from diagnosis to her final day. I still remember holding her hand as she slipped away, promising I would take care of our son and myself. After her passing, the house felt emptier than I could have imagined. The silence became my constant companion. I continued working for another 7 years before retiring with a nest egg of $450,000. Not a fortune by any means, but enough to live comfortably if I remained careful with my spending. Gregory came into our lives when I was 33, a surprise blessing we had almost given up hoping for. From the moment he arrived, he became the center of our universe. Perhaps we spoiled him too much. Margaret often worried we were making life too easy for him. "He needs to learn that the world requires effort," she would say, but I found it difficult to deny him anything. He was a bright child, quick to learn but equally quick to abandon tasks that required persistence. His report cards consistently noted, "Gregory shows great potential, but lacks consistent application." Throughout his school years, I paid for tutors, special programs, and extracurricular activities. When college applications approached, I hired counselors to help maximize his chances. He secured admission to a respectable university, where I covered his tuition, housing, meal plans, and provided a monthly allowance. Gregory studied marketing and managed to graduate with decent grades, though he switched majors twice when courses became too demanding. After graduation, he secured a position at an advertising agency, though I suspect my golf buddy Walter, who served on their board, influenced the hiring decision. One pattern emerged early in Gregory's life that continued into adulthood. He waited for others to solve his problems. When his car needed repairs, he asked me to handle it. When his first apartment had plumbing issues, I called contractors. When he received his first credit card bill, I explained budgeting basics. Margaret noticed this tendency before I did. "We need to let him face consequences," she advised, but my paternal instinct to protect him always won out. After Margaret passed, my relationship with Gregory shifted. He visited less frequently, called only sporadically, and our conversations grew shorter. I attributed this distance to grief and his burgeoning career, but sometimes wondered if my usefulness had diminished in his eyes. Still, whenever he needed financial advice or practical assistance, he appeared at my door with that boyish smile that reminded me so much of his mother. Gregory met Amanda at his advertising firm 3 years ago. She worked in account management while he handled creative development. Their romance progressed quickly, and within 8 months, he announced their engagement. The wedding was a modest affair 2 years ago, with 50 guests at a local country club. I contributed $30,000 toward the celebration, wanting them to start their marriage without financial strain. Amanda struck me as intelligent and ambitious. She possessed a reserved demeanor that made it difficult to gauge her true thoughts. Physically attractive with shoulder-length auburn hair and a slender build, she dressed impeccably and spoke with careful precision. Despite my attempts to establish a warm relationship, Amanda maintained a polite distance. She smiled at appropriate moments, thanked me for gifts and assistance, but rarely initiated conversations or shared personal information. I wondered if she felt intimidated by my relationship with Gregory, or simply preferred maintaining emotional boundaries. 2 months after the wedding, I met Patricia, Amanda's mother. The introduction occurred during a dinner at their apartment, an event that seemed hastily arranged. Patricia entered with an air of evaluation, her eyes scanning the modest 2-bedroom rental before settling on me with barely concealed judgment. A widow of 5 years, she stood barely 5 feet tall but projected an outsized presence. Her carefully colored blonde hair, tailored clothing, and numerous gold accessories suggested financial comfort. Patricia immediately established herself as the authority on all matters related to Amanda and, by extension, Gregory. During dinner, she frequently interrupted conversations to correct details or offer unsolicited advice. Amanda always preferred chicken cooked longer, she stated when Gregory served the meal. Gregory should consider the marketing director position at Thompson & Brooks, she declared when career topics arose. Each pronouncement came with absolute certainty. Throughout the evening, Patricia found opportunities to compare me unfavorably to her late husband, Walter. Walter always insisted on premium insurance policies, she remarked when Gregory mentioned his coverage. Walter would never consider such an old model car reliable, she added when my vehicle came up in conversation. Each comparison carried the same message. I failed to measure up to her standard of paternal provision. Over subsequent family gatherings, I noticed Patricia appearing with increasing frequency. Initially, she attended only special occasions like birthdays and holidays. Gradually, she began joining regular weekend dinners and casual get-togethers. Gregory often deferred to her opinions, consulting her before making decisions about everything from vacation destinations to household purchases. Amanda rarely contradicted her mother, even when Patricia spoke over her or dismissed her preferences. I found myself increasingly marginalized during these interactions. My suggestions were politely acknowledged, then promptly forgotten. My experiences were deemed outdated or irrelevant. "Things work differently now, Dad," Gregory would say after Patricia offered contradictory advice. I reminded myself that adapting to in-laws required patience and tried to maintain a positive attitude for Gregory's sake. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in our family dynamic. The autumn evening when Gregory arrived at my door remains vivid in my memory. Leaves crunched beneath his feet as he walked up the pathway to my front porch. The air carried that distinctive October crispness that always reminded me of football games and pumpkin-picking trips from his childhood. He wore a navy blue blazer and carried a leather portfolio under his arm, an unusual formality for our casual dinner plans. "Dad, thanks for making time tonight," he said, embracing me briefly before stepping inside. His demeanor seemed different, more serious than his typical relaxed attitude during our visits. I noticed he checked his phone repeatedly as I prepared dinner, his thumb scrolling through what appeared to be financial documents. I had spent the afternoon cooking his favorite meal, beef stew with dumplings, the recipe Margaret had perfected over decades. The familiar aroma filled the house, and for a moment, I felt transported to happier times when our family gathered around the dining table, complete and unbroken. "Just like Mom used to make," Gregory commented appreciatively as I ladled stew into bowls, though he seemed distracted. After dinner, Gregory spread several documents across the kitchen table. Property listings, bank statements, and mortgage calculations covered the wooden surface my wife and I had purchased 40 years earlier. "Dad, I want to talk to you about something important," he began, straightening the papers with uncharacteristic precision. "Amanda and I have found our dream home." He showed me photographs of a 2-story colonial house in Oakwood Heights, an upscale neighborhood 20 minutes from my modest home. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a finished basement, and a spacious backyard enclosed by mature oak trees. The asking price, $450,000, exactly the amount of my retirement savings. "The market is incredibly competitive right now," Gregory explained, pointing to trend graphs showing rapidly increasing property values. Houses in this neighborhood have appreciated 15% annually for the past 3 years. It's not just a home, Dad. It's an investment opportunity that won't come around again. According to Gregory, he and Amanda had saved $50,000 for a down payment over the past 2 years. The bank requires at least 40% down payment to qualify for their best interest rate, he explained. That means we need another $200,000. I've looked at every option, and honestly, a loan from you makes the most financial sense for all of us. His proposal seemed carefully considered. The bank offered a 30-year mortgage at 7% interest. Gregory proposed borrowing $200,000 from me at 3% interest, with monthly payments spread over 10 years. You'll earn more than any CD or savings account would pay you, he emphasized, and we'll save thousands compared to taking a larger mortgage or paying private mortgage insurance. As he outlined the plan, Gregory's expression grew earnest. This isn't just about Amanda and me, Dad. It's about building something for the whole family. He described a future where holiday gatherings would happen in their spacious dining room. There's a bedroom on the first floor that would be perfect for you if you ever need to stay with us, he added. As we get older, we want you close by. The mention of potential grandchildren sealed his pitch. Amanda and I are thinking about starting a family soon, he confided, lowering his voice as though sharing a precious secret. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our children could grow up with their grandfather nearby? This house would give us that opportunity. I stared at my coffee cup, turning Gregory's request over in my mind. $200,000 represented nearly half of my retirement fund. The remaining $250,000 would need to last potentially 20 more years, covering rising healthcare costs and unexpected expenses. Could I maintain my modest lifestyle with the reduced amount? Even with the promised monthly repayments, I would have significantly less financial security. Yet as I looked at my son's hopeful expression, I remembered my promise to Margaret. Take care of our boy, she had whispered during those final days. What kind of father would refuse to help his only child achieve such an important milestone? Besides, the first-floor bedroom offered practical advantages as I aged. Perhaps this arrangement would benefit us both in the long run. I need to think about this overnight, I told Gregory. It's a significant amount, and I want to make sure I'm making a sound decision. He nodded understandingly, though I noticed a flicker of impatience cross his face. Of course, Dad. Take all the time you need, he replied, gathering his documents. Just keep in mind the sellers are entertaining multiple offers. We need to move quickly. That night, I calculated and recalculated my finances until past midnight. I considered potential medical expenses, property taxes, home repairs, and daily living costs. With careful budgeting and the promised monthly repayments from Gregory, I could manage. The interest would actually provide a modest income supplement. More importantly, I would be investing in my son's future and potentially securing a place for myself in his growing family. The next morning, I called Gregory with my decision. I'll help you with the $200,000, I said, but I want everything properly documented in a formal loan agreement. His enthusiastic response warmed my heart. Absolutely, Dad. I've already drafted the paperwork. I can bring it over this afternoon for your review. True to his word, Gregory arrived that afternoon with a professionally prepared loan agreement. The document specified the loan amount, 3% interest rate, and 10-year repayment schedule with monthly payments of approximately $2,160. I read through each clause carefully, making notes and asking questions. Gregory answered patiently, reassuring me about the legal protections for both parties. After signing 2 copies of the agreement, I wrote a check for $200,000. My hand trembled slightly as I handed it to Gregory, the weight of the decision suddenly tangible. He embraced me tightly, something he rarely did since becoming an adult. This means everything to us, Dad, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You won't regret this decision. We celebrated with takeout from my favorite Italian restaurant. Amanda called to express her gratitude, though she couldn't join us due to an important client meeting that couldn't be rescheduled. I found it odd that she worked so late, but Gregory explained the advertising industry often required unconventional hours. As we ate lasagna and garlic bread, Gregory detailed their plans for the house, from paint colors to furniture arrangements. I felt genuinely happy, believing I had made the right choice to support my son's dreams. 3 weeks after providing the loan, Gregory called with exciting news. "We got the house, Dad. The sellers accepted our offer." His voice bubbled with excitement. "When can I come see it?" I asked eagerly, imagining myself walking through the rooms that my contribution had helped secure. Gregory's enthusiasm seemed to dampen slightly. "Well, we're still settling in. The place is a mess with boxes everywhere. Let's wait until we're more organized." I respected his request, understanding the chaos of moving. However, as days turned into weeks, Gregory continued finding reasons to postpone my visit. "Amanda wants to finish decorating first," he explained one week. "We're having some minor plumbing issues fixed," he claimed the next. "The furniture for the guest room hasn't arrived yet," came another excuse. Each explanation sounded reasonable in isolation, but collectively they began to form a troubling pattern. Our communication also changed subtly. Before the loan, Gregory typically responded to my text messages within an hour or two. Now, days might pass before I received a brief reply. Our weekly phone conversations, once lasting 30 or 40 minutes, shortened to hurried 10-minute exchanges. "Sorry, Dad. I'm swamped with work," became his standard explanation. "The new house needs so much attention," he added when I pressed for details about their settling-in process. The weekly Sunday dinners that had been our tradition since Margaret's passing increasingly fell victim to last-minute cancellations. "Amanda's not feeling well," he would text Saturday evening. "I've got a major presentation to prepare for," came another time. When we did manage to meet at my house, Gregory arrived late, checked his phone constantly, and departed early with barely concealed impatience. 5 weeks after they moved in, I encountered Scott, Gregory's college roommate and longtime friend, at Riverside Coffee Shop, where I often read the morning newspaper. Scott waved enthusiastically from the counter and joined me at my table with his cappuccino. "Braden, great to see you," he greeted warmly. "The housewarming party was fantastic. Gregory and Amanda have really created a beautiful home." My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. "Housewarming party?" I asked, confusion evident in my voice. Scott's expression shifted to discomfort as he realized his misstep. "Oh," I thought. "It was last weekend. About 30 people. I assumed you were there." He fidgeted with his napkin, clearly sensing he had revealed something unexpected. "Maybe they planned to have a separate gathering for family," he suggested weakly. "I haven't actually seen the house yet," I admitted, embarrassment coloring my cheeks. Gregory said they're still organizing everything. Scott's discomfort deepened visibly. He sipped his coffee to fill the awkward silence, then added without thinking, "Well, they seemed pretty settled to me. Patricia's room looked especially nice. She has great taste in furnishings." My heart skipped a beat. "Patricia's room?" I repeated, setting down my cup carefully to hide my shaking hand. Scott immediately recognized his second blunder, his eyes widening. "I thought you knew she was staying with them," he stammered. I got the impression it was a permanent arrangement. She mentioned something about selling her condo. The conversation shifted to safer topics after that, but Scott's revelations continued reverberating in my mind long after we parted. That evening, I searched online for information about Gregory and Amanda's new home. Their address wasn't difficult to find through property records. The real estate listing showed professional photographs of the house before purchase, but I wanted current images. My search led me to Amanda's social media accounts, which I rarely checked. There, I found dozens of photos from the housewarming party Scott had mentioned. Smiling guests posed in various rooms of the house, champagne glasses raised in celebration. I recognized many faces, friends and colleagues from both Gregory and Amanda's workplaces. Not a single photo included me or mentioned my absence. Most revealing were images showing Patricia prominently positioned in the center of group photos, clearly comfortable in the space. One photo captured her standing beside a bedroom door, with an ornate wooden sign reading Patricia's suite. A comment from Patricia's friend Eleanor read, "Thanks for showing me your beautiful new home. So generous of Gregory and Amanda to include you in their plans." With growing unease, I tried calling Gregory that evening. The call went straight to voicemail. My text message asking about Patricia received no response until the following afternoon. Mom needed a place to stay temporarily while her condo undergoes renovations. Should have mentioned it. Sorry. The brevity and obvious fabrication wounded me deeply. I had seen enough on social media to know Patricia's presence was neither temporary nor recent. Another troubling development emerged when the first loan repayment date passed, without the promised $2,160 appearing in my account. I waited 3 days before texting Gregory about the missed payment. His response came hours later. "Having some issues with the bank. We'll send payment as soon as possible. Might be a couple weeks late." When the second month's payment date approached with still no money received, I called again. This time Gregory answered, sounding harried. "Dad, I meant to call you. The company is going through restructuring, and they've temporarily reduced salaries. I'm working with our financial advisor to rearrange some things. Can you give me another month?" The explanation sounded plausible, but something in his tone triggered my suspicion. I contacted Harold, a former colleague who had a son working at Gregory's advertising firm. "Would you mind asking Brian if there's been any restructuring or salary reductions happening there?" I asked casually. Harold called back 2 days later. "Brian says quite the opposite. The agency just secured 2 major accounts and announced bonuses and raises for the creative team. Gregory actually received a promotion last month." This deliberate lie cut deeper than all the previous evasions. My son had never outright fabricated information to me before. Previous manipulations had involved omissions or exaggerations, but this represented a new level of deception. That night, I lay awake until dawn, my thoughts churning with confusion and hurt. Had I missed warning signs throughout Gregory's life? Was I being paranoid, misinterpreting innocent explanations due to my isolation and loneliness? I decided to give Gregory one more opportunity, to be honest. I called and suggested meeting for lunch at his favorite steakhouse. "My treat," I added, knowing he rarely declined free meals. He agreed, though he limited the time, claiming another appointment afterward. During lunch, I casually mentioned property values in his neighborhood. "I bet your house has already appreciated since you purchased it," I commented. Gregory nodded enthusiastically, explaining market trends. "I'd love to see what you've done with the place," I said, watching his expression carefully. "Maybe I could stop by after lunch?" Panic flashed across his features before he composed himself. "Not today, Dad. The house is a disaster. Amanda's redecorating the living room, furniture everywhere. Let me check with her about next weekend." The practiced ease of his excuses confirmed my growing suspicions. Something was very wrong, and I needed to discover exactly what my money had purchased. The revelation came unexpectedly through June Michaels, my neighbor of 15 years. I encountered her in the produce section of Greenfield Market one Tuesday afternoon. After exchanging pleasantries about the unseasonably warm October weather, June mentioned seeing Patricia at the same store the previous week. She was buying quite a lot of groceries, June observed. Said something about stocking her new pantry. My expression must have prompted June to continue. She seemed very proud of the house her daughter and son-in-law purchased for her, June added, selecting a bunch of bananas. She mentioned having her own suite with a sitting room and ensuite bathroom. Very elegant, apparently. "Patricia told you they bought the house for her?" I asked, keeping my voice carefully neutral despite the sinking feeling in my stomach. June nodded, oblivious to my distress. She said she helped them choose it. Something about the perfect layout for 3 adults. I gathered she's living there permanently. June paused, studying my face. "I assumed you knew about the arrangement, Braden." I mumbled something about being aware of their living situation and quickly finished my shopping. Inside my car, I sat motionless for several minutes, June's innocent comments confirming my worst suspicions. The house purchased with my retirement savings had been intended as a residence for Patricia from the very beginning. My son had deliberately deceived me, using my money to provide a home for his mother-in-law while excluding me from the arrangement. That afternoon, I drove to the address I had found in property records. The colonial-style house matched the photos from the real estate listing, though now autumn decorations adorned the front porch. 3 pumpkins of graduating sizes sat beside the door, and a wreath of artificial fall leaves hung from a brass knocker. Most tellingly, 2 vehicles occupied the driveway. Gregory's silver Audi and a white Lexus SUV, I recognized as Patricia's. I parked across the street, observing the house for nearly 30 minutes. Lights glowed from windows on both floors, suggesting multiple occupants were home. Eventually, I steeled my nerves and approached the front door. Each step felt heavier than the last, my mind racing with questions and accusations I had rehearsed during sleepless nights. I rang the doorbell and waited, heart pounding against my ribs. Patricia opened the door, her initial welcoming expression transforming instantly to shock and displeasure upon seeing me. She wore casual houseclothes and slippers, clearly comfortable in the space. "Braden," she said flatly, making no move to invite me inside. "What are you doing here?" Her tone conveyed territorial defense rather than surprise at an unexpected visitor. "I've come to see my son's new home," I replied evenly, noting how naturally she positioned herself as gatekeeper. "Is Gregory available?" Patricia's lips thinned as she glanced over her shoulder into the house. "He's busy right now. Perhaps you should have called first." Her fingers remained firmly gripped on the door edge, physically blocking my entry. "I've been trying to visit for 2 months," I said, maintaining a calm demeanor despite my rising anger. "Since my money purchased this house, I believe I have a right to see it." I stepped forward, leaving Patricia little choice but to back up or physically prevent my entrance. She reluctantly moved aside, her expression conveying clear annoyance at my assertion. The interior exceeded the online photographs in elegance. Hardwood floors gleamed beneath carefully arranged furniture that I immediately recognized as Patricia's distinctive taste. The formal living room featured her antique writing desk, positioned prominently near large windows. Crystal figurines I had seen in her previous home adorned glass shelves. Family photographs lined the hallway, but I noticed they exclusively showed Amanda's family, with no images including me or Margaret. "Gregory will be home shortly," Patricia said tightly, following as I moved through the house. "I don't appreciate you barging in uninvited." I ignored her comment, continuing my inspection. The kitchen featured high-end appliances and granite countertops. A tea service sat on the island, 2 cups, suggesting an interrupted conversation between Patricia and someone else. "Is Amanda home?" I asked. "She's resting," Patricia replied curtly. "She's been working long hours." I nodded, proceeding toward the staircase. "I'd like to see the rest of the house." Patricia moved quickly to block my path. "I don't think that's appropriate without Gregory or Amanda present." Her authoritative tone suggested long-established dominance in the household. "I understand there's a room prepared for me on the first floor," I said, watching her reaction carefully. Confusion crossed her features momentarily before she composed herself. "I don't know what you're talking about. There's my suite and Gregory and Amanda's bedroom upstairs, plus 2 guest rooms." The casual reference to my suite confirmed everything I suspected. I moved past her, toward a closed door off the main hallway. "Is this it?" I asked, opening the door before she could object. Inside was clearly Patricia's bedroom, decorated lavishly with her personal items. A small sitting area included a chaise lounge and bookshelf. Photos of Patricia, Amanda, and Gregory adorned the walls. The adjoining bathroom featured luxury fixtures and monogrammed towels with Patricia's initials. "This looks like more than temporary accommodations," I observed, noting built-in closets filled with Patricia's clothing. A vanity table displayed her extensive jewelry collection and personal items arranged with permanent precision. Nothing about the space suggested a short-term guest. The sound of the front door opening interrupted our tense standoff. Gregory's voice called out, "Mom, I picked up that special tea you wanted." His words died as he entered the hallway and saw me standing in the doorway of Patricia's room. The color drained from his face, grocery bags dangling forgotten from his hands. "Dad," he managed weakly, "I didn't know you were coming over." "Clearly," I replied, maintaining outward composure despite my internal turmoil. "I thought it was time I saw what my $200,000 purchased." Gregory's eyes darted between Patricia and me, panic evident in his expression. "I can explain," he began, setting down the bags and moving toward me with placating hands. "Please do," I said, moving back to the living room where we could sit. "Explain why your mother-in-law has a permanent suite in the house my money helped buy, while I haven't been invited to visit once in 2 months." Gregory sank onto the sofa, running his hands through his hair in a nervous gesture I recognized from his childhood. "It's complicated," he started, avoiding direct eye contact. "Patricia needed a place to stay after selling her condo. It was supposed to be temporary, but then..." His voice trailed off unconvincingly. Patricia interjected from the doorway. "I don't see why this is any of your business, Braden. Gregory and Amanda own this house now. My business is the $200,000 I provided under specific pretenses," I replied firmly, returning my attention to Gregory. "Did you intend for Patricia to live here permanently when you asked for the loan?" His continued avoidance of my gaze provided the answer before he spoke. "We thought it might be a possibility," he admitted quietly. The staircase creaked as Amanda descended, apparently having overheard the conversation. She appeared uncomfortable but resolute as she joined Gregory on the sofa. "We were going to tell you," she offered weakly. Once everything was settled, her hand found Gregory's, their unified front, a stark contrast to my isolation. "Tell me what exactly?" I pressed, looking between them. "That you used my retirement savings to provide a home for Patricia while excluding me from the arrangement. That the room supposedly reserved for me doesn't exist?" Gregory winced at the directness of my questions, but offered no denial. Patricia moved fully into the room, assuming a position of authority behind Gregory and Amanda. "Families make these kinds of arrangements all the time," she stated dismissively. "My daughter needed my support establishing her household. It makes perfect sense for me to be here." "And what about my support?" I asked quietly, the hurt evident despite my efforts to remain composed. "I was told this house would provide space for me as I aged, that I was investing in our family's future." Gregory at least had the decency to look ashamed. Amanda stared at her clasped hands, avoiding my gaze entirely. "The truth is obvious," I continued when no one responded. "You deliberately misled me to secure funds for a home that included permanent accommodations for Patricia. You never intended to honor your promises about my place in this household." The lack of denial from any of them confirmed what my heart already knew. I had been systematically deceived by my own son. "I want to see the loan agreement," I said, breaking the uncomfortable silence that had settled over the room. Gregory hesitated before standing reluctantly. "I'll get it from the office," he muttered, disappearing down the hallway. Patricia remained standing, arms crossed defensively, while Amanda fidgeted with the edge of a decorative pillow. Gregory returned moments later with a document folder. He extracted several pages and handed them to me without meeting my eyes. As I scanned the contents, my blood ran cold. The agreement in my hands differed significantly from the one I had signed 2 months earlier. The interest rate showed 2% instead of 3%. The repayment period extended to 15 years rather than 10. Most alarmingly, a clause stated, "Repayments may be deferred at borrower's discretion for periods not exceeding 6 months." "This isn't the agreement I signed," I stated, comparing the signature on the document with my own handwriting. Though similar, discrepancies were evident to my eye. "You altered the terms and forged my signature." The accusation hung heavily in the air, unanswered for several uncomfortable seconds. "We made a few adjustments," Gregory finally admitted, his voice barely audible. The original terms were too restrictive given our financial situation. His casual acknowledgement of fraud stunned me. This wasn't merely deception, but a criminal act perpetrated by my own son. Patricia stepped forward, her patience visibly exhausted. "This whole conversation is becoming tedious," she declared dismissively. "What's done is done. The money has been spent, the house purchased. Your pestering is just creating unnecessary drama." Her condescending tone ignited a flash of anger I rarely experienced. "Pestering?" I repeated incredulously. "Is that what you call inquiring about $200,000 obtained through fraud?" Patricia waved her hand as though swatting away an annoying insect. "Such an unpleasant old man," she remarked to Amanda. "I told you this would happen if he discovered the arrangement too soon." Gregory interrupted, attempting damage control. "Dad, you're being difficult and controlling. This is exactly why we hesitated to involve you in our living situation." His words struck like physical blows. "You've always expected to dictate terms, always held financial support over my head. When have I ever refused you anything?" I asked. Genuine confusion mixing with hurt. "I've supported every decision, paid for every need or want throughout your life." Gregory scoffed, a sound so unlike the son I thought I knew, and remind me of it constantly. Every gift came with invisible strings. Amanda remained silent throughout this exchange, her expression suggesting internal conflict. When our eyes briefly met, she quickly looked away, unwilling or unable to speak against her husband and mother. Her complicity through silence wounded me almost as deeply as Gregory's active betrayal. "Let me understand clearly," I said, struggling to maintain composure. "You planned from the beginning for Patricia to live here permanently. You altered our legal agreement without my knowledge. You've made no loan payments despite your financial ability to do so. And now you're suggesting I'm unreasonable for questioning these actions?" Patricia sighed theatrically. "You've lived a comfortable life, Braden. Now it's time to support the younger generation. Gregory and Amanda needed this house. I needed a place to live after selling my condo. The solution benefited everyone except you, which is why you're upset." "What about the room supposedly reserved for me?" I asked, directing the question to Gregory. "Was that ever real, or just another manipulation to secure the loan?" Gregory shifted uncomfortably before answering. "We discussed it as a possibility for the future, not an immediate arrangement." "The truth," Patricia interjected, "is that having you here would be impractical. Your constant criticism and judgment would create tension. We're establishing our household according to our preferences, not yours." Her proprietary use of our household confirmed her entrenched position in their family unit, a position that explicitly excluded me. "I need the money returned," I stated firmly. "All $200,000, immediately." Gregory laughed without humor. "That's impossible. The money went into the down payment. We can't just liquidate part of the house." His dismissive tone suggested he'd already considered and rejected this possibility, anticipating eventual confrontation. "Then you'll need to sell the house," I replied. Gregory's expression hardened, all pretense of remorse vanishing. "That's not happening. We signed a legal agreement." He gestured toward the fraudulent document on the coffee table. "We'll make payments according to these terms when our finances permit." Patricia stepped closer, her diminutive height failing to diminish her domineering presence. "Be reasonable, Braden. At your age, what do you need all that money for anyway? Gregory and Amanda have their whole lives ahead of them. They deserve a nice home. And if I pursue legal action regarding the forged document?" I asked quietly. Gregory's expression shifted to one of calculated assessment. "That would effectively end our relationship," he stated coldly. "Is that really what you want? To never see your son again over money?" The emotional manipulation was so transparent, yet still effective in piercing my heart. "This isn't about money," I replied, my voice hoarse with emotion. "This is about trust, honesty, and respect, none of which you've demonstrated." Amanda finally spoke, her voice small but determined. "We appreciate everything you've done, Braden, but this house represents our future. We can't just give it up because you've changed your mind about helping us." Her characterization of my legitimate concerns as capricious whims added another layer to my sense of betrayal. I stood slowly, gathering the fraudulent documents and my dignity. "You are not the son I thought you were," I said to Gregory, unable to disguise the tremor in my voice. "I never imagined you capable of this level of deception and disrespect." His expression remained impassive, though something flickered briefly in his eyes before he looked away. Walking to the door, I turned one final time. "This isn't over," I stated simply. No one moved to accompany me out. As the door closed behind me, I heard Patricia's voice. "Well, that was predictably dramatic. He'll calm down eventually." Driving home through blurred vision, I allowed the full weight of betrayal to settle on my shoulders. For the first time since Margaret's death, I wept openly, grieving not just the loss of my savings but the shattering of my relationship with my only child. My hands shook on the steering wheel as decades of sacrifices, support, and unconditional love seemed to dissolve into meaninglessness. Sleep eluded me that night as scenes from the confrontation replayed relentlessly in my mind. I analyzed each moment, searching for signs I might have misinterpreted, alternative explanations that might soften the reality of Gregory's betrayal. By dawn, I had accepted the painful truth. My son had deliberately deceived me, manipulated my paternal instincts, and stolen a significant portion of my retirement security. With this clarity came determination. Whatever emotional manipulation Gregory attempted, I couldn't allow this fraud to stand unchallenged. My financial security and self-respect demanded action. Margaret would have expected nothing less. "Love doesn't mean becoming a doormat," she often said when discussing our parenting approaches. Her practical wisdom guided me now, even years after her passing. My first step involved retrieving the original loan agreement from my home safe. The metal box contained important documents Margaret and I had accumulated throughout our marriage: property deeds, insurance policies, birth certificates, and our wills. The loan agreement lay exactly where I had placed it 2 months earlier, sealed in a labeled envelope. Comparing the original document with photographs I had taken of Gregory's version confirmed my suspicions. Multiple alterations were evident. The interest rate, repayment period, deferment options, and several other clauses had been modified. Most damning was my signature, convincingly similar but noticeably different when compared directly with the original. Gregory had created an entirely new document rather than modifying the existing one, then forged my signature to legitimize his changes. I needed professional guidance to navigate this situation. Frank Donovan, my friend of 40 years and a retired attorney, seemed the logical first resource. I called him that morning, asking if we could meet for lunch. "Something's happened with Gregory," I explained briefly. "I need legal advice." Frank, understanding the urgency in my voice, rearranged his schedule to meet me at Riverside Diner at noon. Over club sandwiches and coffee, I recounted the entire situation, from Gregory's initial loan request to yesterday's confrontation. Frank listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly allowing me to relate the events uninterrupted. When I finished, he sat back, his expression grave. "Braden, this goes beyond family disagreement into criminal territory," he stated, keeping his voice low despite our private corner booth. "Document forgery is a serious offense. The deliberate deception about the loan's purpose compounds the issue." He examined the original agreement and the photos of Gregory's version. "This is clear evidence of fraud." "What are my options?" I asked, still conflicted about taking legal action against my own son. Frank outlined several possibilities, from formal demand letters to civil litigation to criminal charges. The strongest approach would combine civil action to recover the funds with the threat of criminal charges regarding the forgery, he advised. "But Braden, are you prepared for what this means for your relationship with Gregory?" The question pierced my heart. Despite everything, some part of me still hoped for reconciliation, for Gregory to recognize his error and make amends. "I don't want to destroy my relationship with my son," I admitted, but I can't allow him to steal my retirement security either. Frank suggested engaging a practicing attorney specializing in financial fraud. Thomas Williams handled several similar cases before I retired. He's thorough, compassionate, and understands family dynamics. He made a call from the restaurant, and Thomas agreed to meet me that afternoon. Thomas Williams projected competence and compassion in equal measure. After reviewing my documentation and hearing the complete narrative, he confirmed Frank's assessment. "This is textbook fraud," he stated. "The altered agreement, forged signature, and deliberate misrepresentation about the loan's purpose create a strong legal case." He recommended a two-phase approach. First, a formal demand letter requiring repayment within 30 days. Second, if unresolved, civil litigation, coupled with providing evidence of forgery to the district attorney's office. "The criminal aspect gives us significant leverage," Thomas explained. "Most people will find a way to return funds when facing potential criminal charges." My resolve strengthened further that evening when I discovered Patricia's social media posts about their living arrangement. Scrolling through her recent activity, I found messages exchanged with friends that confirmed my worst suspicions. "Finally got that foolish old man to finance our dream home," she wrote to someone named Diane. "Gregory knows exactly how to handle his father. Doubt we'll ever have to repay much of that money." Another comment to Eleanor read, "Once we're settled, we'll gradually reduce contact. No need for Braden to keep inserting himself into our lives now that we've secured the financing." The casual cruelty and calculated manipulation evident in these exchanges solidified my determination to pursue legal remedies. Thomas prepared a comprehensive demand letter outlining the legal issues and consequences of non-compliance. The document detailed the original agreement terms, evidence of forgery, and options for resolution. Either immediate repayment of the full amount or sale of the property to return my investment. The letter concluded with a clear statement about potential criminal charges if the matter remained unresolved after 30 days. I also reported the forgery to Detective Sarah Collins at the local police department. She reviewed the documents carefully, confirming the discrepancies represented actionable evidence. "We take financial crimes against seniors seriously," she assured me. "This appears to be a clear case of forgery and fraud." She opened an official investigation, explaining that criminal proceedings could proceed independently from any civil action I pursued. As Thomas's team gathered additional evidence about the property transaction and Gregory's financial situation, I struggled with conflicting emotions. Moments of righteous anger alternated with periods of profound sadness. How had my only child become capable of such calculated betrayal? Had I somehow contributed to his moral development's failure through excessive indulgence or insufficient guidance? One final attempt at resolution seemed appropriate before proceeding with formal legal action. I contacted Gregory, Amanda, and Patricia, inviting them to meet at my home the following Saturday. "I'd like to discuss a possible solution to our situation," I explained, deliberately keeping my tone neutral, "before things progress further." Gregory sounded suspicious but agreed, likely assuming I had reconsidered my position. "We'll be there at 11, he confirmed. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about this, Dad." His condescending tone suggested he anticipated my capitulation rather than genuine resolution. The night before our meeting, I reviewed my documentation one final time. The original agreement, bank transfer records, text messages, social media screenshots, and police report created an irrefutable case. Thomas had assured me our legal position was unassailable. Detective Collins confirmed the evidence supported criminal charges, if necessary. Despite this preparation, I found myself standing before Margaret's photograph in our bedroom, seeking comfort from her memory. "I wish you were here to guide me," I whispered to her smiling image. "Did we raise him to become this person? Where did we go wrong?" No answer came, of course, but remembering her strength and integrity reinforced my resolve to handle this situation with both firmness and dignity. I prepared the house meticulously for the meeting, arranging documents on the dining room table and ensuring everything appeared orderly. This confrontation would determine not just my financial security, but potentially the future of my relationship with my only child. Whatever happened, I was prepared to stand firm in defense of what was right, even at tremendous emotional cost. Saturday morning arrived with golden autumn sunshine streaming through my kitchen windows. I had risen early, unable to sleep past 5 after a restless night filled with anxiety and rehearsed conversations. By 10:30, everything was prepared. Coffee brewed, documents organized in labeled folders, and my phone charged and positioned discreetly on the dining room table. The doorbell rang precisely at 11. I opened the door to find Gregory, Amanda, and Patricia standing on my porch, their expressions ranging from Gregory's forced confidence to Amanda's evident discomfort. Patricia maintained her usual air of superiority, surveying my modest home with barely concealed disapproval. "Thank you for coming," I greeted them neutrally, stepping aside to allow their entrance. "We can talk in the dining room. I've prepared coffee." They followed me silently, Patricia immediately claiming the seat that had once been Margaret's at the head of the table. Gregory and Amanda sat together opposite me, their postures suggesting a united front despite Amanda's visible nervousness. "I hope you've had time to reconsider your position," Gregory began without preamble. "This situation doesn't need to damage our relationship permanently." His tone conveyed confidence that I would eventually surrender my financial claims to preserve our connection. Patricia nodded approvingly at his approach. "I've considered everything very carefully," I replied, maintaining calm despite my churning emotions, including the altered loan agreement with my forged signature. Gregory's expression faltered momentarily before he regained his composure. "Documents get updated all the time in business, Dad. The changes were minor administrative adjustments." "Forgery isn't a minor adjustment," I responded, opening the folder containing both versions of the agreement, "nor is creating an entirely different repayment structure without my knowledge or consent." I placed the documents side by side, the discrepancies obvious even from across the table. Amanda leaned forward slightly, her expression showing growing concern. Patricia dismissed my concerns with a wave of her bejeweled hand. "These technical details are hardly worth discussing. The important issue is finding a compromise that works for everyone." Her definition of everyone clearly excluded my interests. Gregory nodded in agreement with his mother-in-law. "We're prepared to be generous, Dad. Instead of deferring payments indefinitely, we can start paying $500 monthly next year." His offer represented less than a quarter of the originally agreed amount and would extend repayment for decades. "That's the best we can manage while maintaining our household." "Your household, including Patricia's permanent residence," I clarified. Gregory didn't deny this, merely shrugging as though this detail were inconsequential. "Mom needs us, and we need her support with our careers. It's a practical arrangement. Unlike the arrangement you promised me," I noted quietly. "The first-floor bedroom that would be available whenever I needed it, the place in your family's life as I aged." Gregory shifted uncomfortably, avoiding direct eye contact. "That might still be possible someday, just not immediately." Patricia interjected impatiently. "Braden, you need to be realistic. Your expectations are simply unreasonable. Gregory and Amanda need to establish their household according to their preferences, not yours." Her proprietary tone when discussing the house purchased largely with my money ignited a spark of indignation within me. "I've made my decision about how to proceed," I said, reaching for my phone. "Before I share it, I want to ask one final time. Will you return my $200,000 as originally agreed?" The directness of my question created momentary silence around the table. Gregory and Patricia exchanged glances before he responded. "That's simply impossible, Dad. The money is invested in the house. We can offer the reduced payment plan I mentioned, but nothing more." His tone suggested this tremendous concession should inspire my gratitude rather than continued resistance. "I understand," I replied, my voice steady despite my disappointment. "Then I need to make a call." I lifted my phone, pressed a number on speed dial, and activated the speaker function. Gregory watched with mild curiosity, clearly believing this was another negotiation tactic rather than a definitive action. Thomas Williams speaking. Came the clear professional voice through the speaker. Is this Braden? Are they with you now? Gregory's expression shifted from confidence to confusion, while Patricia straightened in her chair, suddenly alert to potential trouble. Yes, Thomas. I've asked directly for repayment according to our original agreement, and they've refused. They're offering significantly reduced payments beginning next year. I maintained eye contact with Gregory as I spoke, watching realization gradually dawn across his features. I understand, Thomas replied. Then we'll proceed as discussed. I've already prepared the civil complaint for filing Monday morning. Detective Collins has also completed her investigation regarding the forged documents and is prepared to move forward with the district attorney's office. Gregory's face drained of color at the mention of police involvement. Dad, who is this? What investigation? His voice rose slightly, panic replacing his previous confidence. Patricia's expression hardened, her eyes narrowing as she assessed this unexpected development. Thomas Williams, attorney at law, came the response through the speaker. I'm representing your father in this matter. The investigation concerns document forgery, which, as I'm sure you're aware, constitutes a criminal offense in this state. The evidence is quite compelling. I added calmly. Thomas has also spoken with Detective Collins from the Financial Crimes Unit. She's been very thorough in examining the altered agreement and my authentic signature from multiple documents for comparison. Gregory's composure crumbled visibly, his breathing becoming rapid and shallow. You called the police on your own son? He asked incredulously, attempting to reclaim moral high ground through indignation. Over a family disagreement? Patricia nodded vigorously in support, her expression suggesting I had committed some unforgivable betrayal rather than responding to their actions. This stopped being merely a family disagreement when you forged my signature on a fraudulent document, I replied evenly. And when you deliberately misrepresented the purpose of the loan to secure my retirement funds under false pretenses, Thomas continued through the speaker, his professional tone unwavering. We're prepared to pursue both civil and criminal proceedings simultaneously. The civil suit will seek immediate repayment of the full amount, plus legal fees and damages. The criminal investigation may result in charges of forgery, fraud, and elder financial exploitation. Amanda spoke for the first time, her voice barely audible. Elder exploitation? That's a criminal charge? Her evident alarm suggested she hadn't fully understood the potential consequences of their actions until this moment. Gregory told me you had agreed to all the changes. I did no such thing, Gregory snapped at her, anger displacing panic as he sought to silence her potentially damaging admissions. Dad is twisting everything to control us, just like always. His desperate attempt to reframe the situation fell flat against the weight of evidence and legal terminology filling the room. Patricia interrupted, her voice sharp with hostility. This is clearly Gregory's misunderstanding, not deliberate deception. I'm certain we can resolve this without involving authorities. Her sudden pivot toward conciliation revealed the first cracks in her confident facade. The altered document wasn't created through misunderstanding, I responded. Someone deliberately rewrote entire sections and forged my signature. That requires intention. Gregory stared at the table, unable to maintain his previous denials in the face of concrete evidence and legal consequences. A new voice joined the conversation through the speaker. Detective Sarah Collins here. I've completed my forensic analysis of the documents in question. The signature discrepancies are consistent with forgery, rather than normal variation in authentic signatures. Combined with the substantially altered terms, we have sufficient evidence to proceed with charges. Gregory's composure collapsed entirely. Dad, please, he pleaded, panic evident in his voice and expression. You can't do this. My career would be ruined. I could go to jail. The implications he had apparently never considered now loomed unavoidably before him. You created this situation, I reminded him gently. Every step of the way, you had choices. You chose deception over honesty, manipulation over respect, and self-interest over family obligation. My words carried no anger, only profound disappointment and resolve. Patricia's strategy shifted abruptly to attack. "This is all Gregory's fault," she declared, distancing herself from the scheme she had clearly encouraged. "I told him to be honest with you from the beginning." Her instant betrayal of Gregory illustrated the superficial nature of their alliance, based on convenience rather than loyalty. Gregory stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious? This was your idea. You said Dad would never need to know about our arrangement." His accusation provoked immediate counter-accusations from Patricia, their mutual recriminations revealing the true nature of their relationship. Amanda suddenly stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Stop it, both of you." Her unexpected assertion silenced the room. "I can't do this anymore." She turned to me, tears gathering in her eyes. "Braden, I'm so sorry. I knew what they were planning and didn't stop it. I felt caught between my husband and my mother, but that's no excuse." Her confession continued, words tumbling out with evident relief at finally speaking truthfully. "Patricia orchestrated everything. She convinced Gregory that your money was rightfully his inheritance anyway. She suggested the alterations to the agreement. She insisted on moving in permanently from the beginning." Patricia gasped at this betrayal, while Gregory attempted to interrupt. Amanda continued undeterred. "I never felt right about it, but whenever I objected, they made me feel unreasonable and disloyal. I should have spoken up sooner." Her shoulders slumped with the weight of her complicity, but her expression showed determination to correct their course. The room fell silent as Amanda's revelations settled over us. Thomas spoke again through the speaker. "Given this new information, how would you like to proceed, Braden?" The decision remained mine, despite the legal machinery now in motion. I studied my son's face, searching for the boy I had raised, the young man who once possessed integrity and compassion beneath his occasional selfishness. "I want the full amount repaid according to the original agreement," I stated firmly. "If that requires selling the house, so be it. The alternative is proceeding with both civil and criminal actions." Gregory nodded slowly, defeat evident in his posture. "We'll sell the house," he agreed quietly. "I'll contact our realtor tomorrow." Patricia began to protest, but fell silent under Amanda's uncharacteristically firm glare. The power dynamics had shifted irrevocably within their household. The legal process proceeded swiftly after our confrontation. Thomas arranged for the property's sale under court supervision, ensuring transparency and fair market value. Within 3 months, the house sold for $475,000, generating sufficient funds to repay my investment plus legal fees. Patricia moved into a small apartment, her dreams of a luxurious suite in her daughter's home shattered by her own avarice. The personal aftermath proved more complicated than the financial resolution. Gregory and Amanda separated shortly after the house sale, their marriage strained beyond repair by the deception and its consequences. Amanda moved to another state for a fresh start, contacting me occasionally with brief, apologetic messages that suggested a desire for eventual reconciliation. 6 months after our confrontation, Amanda called with unexpected news. "Gregory has been seeing a therapist," she informed me. "He's working through some difficult realizations about his behavior patterns and Patricia's influence." I received this information with cautious optimism, unwilling to rebuild expectations prematurely. Another month passed before Gregory himself made contact, requesting to meet at a neutral location. At a quiet coffee shop, he struggled to maintain eye contact as he offered his first genuine apology. "I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way," he acknowledged. "I convinced myself I was entitled to your money because you owed me as my father. I listened to Patricia instead of my own conscience." His therapy had apparently prompted recognition of long-standing patterns in his behavior. "I've always taken the easy path, letting others solve my problems or taking shortcuts instead of earning success," he admitted. "I justified my actions by blaming you or circumstances rather than taking responsibility. I listened carefully, neither rushing to forgive nor holding on to bitterness." "Recognition is the first step toward change," I offered finally. "Actions over time will demonstrate whether this represents genuine transformation or temporary remorse." My words were firm but not unkind, establishing clear expectations for our potential reconciliation. Over subsequent months, Gregory demonstrated incremental changes. He secured a new position through his own efforts rather than connections. He maintained regular therapy appointments, despite their cost and emotional challenges. He respected my boundaries without manipulation or entitlement. Small steps, perhaps, but significant given his previous patterns. Our relationship remains a work in progress, damaged but not destroyed by his betrayal. I've learned valuable lessons about setting boundaries even with those we love most deeply. Love without accountability enables destructive behavior rather than supporting growth and integrity. Margaret would have recognized this truth immediately, having always balanced compassion with clear expectations. The financial wound has healed more completely than the emotional one. My retirement savings restored. I've implemented additional protections against future vulnerability. The deeper injury to trust and family bonds requires more time, continuing effort from Gregory, and my own willingness to remain open to genuine change without naivete. If my experience offers any wisdom, perhaps it's this. Loving someone doesn't require accepting mistreatment or abandoning self-protection. Sometimes the most loving action involves holding others accountable for their choices, allowing natural consequences to inspire genuine growth. In protecting myself, I ultimately offered Gregory his best opportunity for authentic change and moral development. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision between protecting yourself and helping a family member? I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Sometimes the most painful choices lead to unexpected healing for everyone involved. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might benefit from these hard-earned lessons. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember that true family bonds are built on mutual respect and honesty, not just shared DNA.